Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm Quentin Hart, mayor for the city of Waterloo, and most of the times, mayors enjoy getting up in front of people talking about incredible opportunities and events and openings. But it's really a challenge to get up here and talk about some of the things that we've seen over the last couple weeks, and that was an increase and an uptick in shootings. I talk to mayors all across the country, my other colleagues, and it's a trend that we're starting to see nationwide. But regardless of that, this is Waterloo, Iowa, and one shooting, one death is one too many. And so we need to work together collectively as a community to see what we can do to try to solve some of these challenges today. Our numbers and our instances, the chief will talk about in just a few moments. But these instances, although they may not be on the level of other communities, it is our opportunity to come together as a community, whether it is faith-based, whether it is a youth-serving organization, whether it's our Human Rights Commission, whether it's the NAACP, but we are all one community. And that is our call today. To make sure that we reach out to those that are perpetuating these instances, make sure we reach out to the young people in our community that may be misguided, to reach out to make sure that we extend our hand first and foremost, but also that we take a serious approach to making sure that we rid our community of gun violence. And that is our goal. It's not about shows, but it's all about this opportunity that we're presented in this community. So I want to thank you all for being here today. This is just the first step of this community coming together and moving forward. On the program next, before we have Pastor Daniels, we will have Sheriff Tony Thompson come up and say just a few words.
Good afternoon. I stand before you today proudly as a citizen of Blackhawk County, and I recognize the challenges that face the city of Waterloo and most large cities today. Crime overall continues to decrease, but violent crime, unfortunately, increases. And it challenges law enforcement, but I'm not sure that we're going to police our way out of this violent crime epidemic that we're facing, not just in Waterloo, but in Cedar Rapids, Iowa City, Dubuque, Des Moines, and everywhere else. I think it does, just like the mayor said, take a community effort. Growing up, I almost hesitate to admit this, that one night, being wild and rambunctious, we were throwing water balloons as friends. And little old lady Oliver got out on her front porch and yells, "Tony Thompson, is that you?" And the water balloon stopped. And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she says, "I think it's time to go home." And the water balloon fight stopped. And I wonder where those days went, where that community advocate stepped up and said, "Enough's enough. It's time to go home. It's time to knock it off." And so whether or not law enforcement steps up their initiatives and whether or not we partner harder, we put more of our squad cars in the community and we police overtly and try and implement problem-oriented policing more aggressively or whatever happens, I think this is a partnership between the community and the little old lady Olivers around this city to help us nullify these young people who don't think about the consequences of their actions until that gavel gets hit by the judge and they're facing 50 years to life. And we see it. We see it every single day because my officers are also the officers working those courtrooms. So we're challenged. We're challenged because our children are our number one resource here in the state of Iowa. And it's those kids that I'm shuffling across back and forth between the jail and that courthouse every day too. So we really have an epidemic. We really have a problem. for this community to face. And it's not just the shootings. It's the residual and it's the fallout of that that challenges us. So as I'm followed by the ministerial folks here in the group behind me and with us today, I continue to pray. I pray for this community. I pray for our efforts. And I pray for our partnerships all the way together as well. Because we can't continue on the trajectory that we're continuing on right now. It's too early in the season. School's not even out. It's not even warm yet. It's time for little old lady Olivers around this community to stand up and say enough's enough. Because we can't police ourselves out of this problem alone. It's not a singular action. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Charles Daniel, and I'm honored to serve as the senior pastor of the Antioch Baptist Church here in Waterloo, Iowa. I'm often reminded of the story that's told in the book of Luke. If you've been to Sunday school any length of time, you probably know it. And if you give a preacher a microphone, you might have a problem. So I won't take all of that time. But there's this narrative told in Luke number 10 about a guy who was walking down a street. He's mugged, he's robbed, he's beaten, he's bruised, he's bloodied, he's left half dead. Several people walk by this gentleman. The Levite walks by, represents, religious people. Another person walks by, represent criminal justice. And at some point, a Samaritan walks by. And we've given that Samaritan the title of the Good Samaritan. Well, I'd like to fire all gospel preachers today that call that Samaritan good. The guy was beaten, he was bloodied, he was broken, he was bruised, he was left half dead. The Samaritan puts him in a hotel. He didn't need a hotel, he needed a hospital. He was bloodied, he was bruised, he was broken, he was left half dead. I know the rest of the narrative tells us that he would come back and pay the fare. Well, it's easy to make me comfortable in my pain without directing the root causes of the pain. And I think this gathering today begins a well-needed conversation, but with a plan of action. How do we address the pain in a community? How do we address the darkness in a community? The last several days have been horrific for me personally. Whether it is national gun violence or gun violence in our community, it hurts everyone. No one person, it is not just the victim or the perpetrator, and whole community is unraveled when this happens. So I'm challenging and I'm charging those of us that are working in the space of faith to partner, be vocal, show up, come out, open our doors. The pandemic has shut down these wonderful places that we have in our communities, and now we're having to rebrand, remarket, and reimagine what ministry looks like in the 21st century right now. No longer are we gathering for massive programs. We have facilities that we can open and offer them to the community and say, we're here to let them know. And so I made a personal commitment from our church, and I hope that all clergy will stand along with me. I made a commitment, whether it is to do ride-alongs, whether it is to show up. On last night, I had the privilege to just drive the community late night after 10:30. And oftentimes I do it to get a feel of what's going on in the community in which I serve. To serve this present age, my calling to fulfill, with all the power I have engaged, my job is to do the Master's will, and that is to help the least, the last, the lost, the left out, and those that are hurting. Thank you. Grace and peace from God our Father.
My name is Teresa Culpepper, and I am the chair for the Human Rights Commission. And I am standing here because it is all hands on deck. And that's where we need to be, where Tony Thompson talked about, that neighbor saying something. And we have so many wonderful things going on in this city, where we have neighborhood parties going on. We have youth athletics. We have summer camps. There are so many things for our kids. But unfortunately, there are times that I can be honest and say, I drove home and I don't remember the face of a single person I saw. How alert am I to what's going on around me? As a human rights commissioner, a fundamental right is the right to live, but we should be able to live without fear. Our children shouldn't worry about being at a lemonade stand and seeing what they saw. So I encourage everybody to be a part of All Hands on Deck. Get children active and engaged. Get your parents to open up those blinds every now and then and look and see what's happening outside of their window space. And feel safe enough that when you see something, you can say something, because this is going to continue. And I love my Waterloo police chief. I love the police. This isn't just their responsibility. This isn't Tony Thompson or his responsibility. This isn't even coming to council, and this isn't all on their feet. This is ours. This is our community. And it's a time that we now take back our streets, take back our youth, and try to provide a better future for them. So you should probably see, I'm not saying any council people that have been throughout town with bumper stickers to say, you can simply text this number and let them know what you saw. And if you're not comfortable texting it, you can call the Human Rights Commission and leave a message, and we will do it anonymously for you. But somewhere, somehow, we've got to open up our eyes to see what's happening, because there's no way to fix it if we don't. Thank you.
Hello, I'm LaTanya Graves, the president of the Black Hawk County chapter NAACP. But long before I became the president, I've been a community activist. And so my heart goes out to all people. And when they're hurting, I'm hurting. And there are so many organizations here that will assist individuals who feel that they have nowhere to turn to. There's men here that are out there in the streets. There's pastors here that are out there, both male and female, who you can contact if you feel that if you feel that you're afraid to talk to someone. We are here. We are here to assist. And I'm begging for the family members that have been involved. I'm begging for a truce. You have to lay down your guns. Lives matter. We all matter. And until we come together, this is going to continue. And I'm begging you, I'm seriously begging you from my heart. We have to put down these guns. And oh my God, life is so precious. And it doesn't matter what side of the tracks you come from. Life is precious. And once a loved one is gone and it's due to an act of violence, and then those families are hurting, and then you have those families who have loved ones that were taken and the cases are still unsolved. My heart goes out to them. My heart goes out to this community because we're hurting. And I'm just asking you, I'm begging with you, I'm pleading with you to put down your guns. I'm asking for a truce. And if you're afraid, there are men here. Astor, DeCarlos, the mayor, Reverend Jenkins, Abraham Funches, Pastor Corey. We're all here for you. There are people, Pastor Daniels, there are people that you can speak with, the chief, Tony Thompson. There are people here that you can talk to. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Tim Duax. I'm the acting U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Iowa. We have been partnering with Waterloo Police Department and other communities in our district for a few years now to try to help on the prevention end of violent crime, particular gun crime. Part of those efforts involve going out to people who have had some incidents and trying to warn them of what the consequences will be if they're caught again or if there's further incidents. And so we've been trying to reach out in that way to prevent this type of crime. And what I would say is I'm glad to see all the people in the room. I'm glad to see the variety of people in the room, because there are a lot of reasons why people shoot each other. In our business, we get to see the reports, we see the reasons, the motivations, and there are many. Jealousy, revenge, property, crime, there's a lot of reasons for it. And you never know who's going to be that person that's going to be able to talk somebody who has a gun in their hand down. You don't know who that's going to be. It might be a police officer, it might be a pastor, it might be a community activist. You just don't know who it's going to be. But if we're all out there trying to do that, we have a better chance of succeeding. I was asked to talk about some of the consequences, and that is what the prosecutor's office does. We hold people accountable when they commit crimes, particularly violent crimes and gun crimes. And our office intends to partner with Waterloo PD to continue to do that in this community and other communities. And when I talk about accountability, I'll give you an example. Just last week, on May 25th, in a case that was prosecuted by our office, an individual who was responsible for being involved in a shooting here in Waterloo was sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. That is the type of accountability that awaits if people won't put down their guns. And so I hate to say that, it's a hard line, but we can't draw any other line. We have to hold people accountable for what they do. We have to provide accountability. And so that's part of our duty. And so we hope that with the prevention efforts that we participate in, that we won't have to do that as often, but if it needs be, we will do it. Thank you.
As police chief, there's a dual role I serve, one of which is running the police department, coming up with operations and solutions to problems as far as it concerns violent crime and property crime, but another is to be able to call together the type of resources that we have here today, both in the community and in our law enforcement partners and with members of our political community as well. There's one thing we all agree on. The police department and most people that live in the city of Waterloo here don't make guns. They don't create them at home. They don't pass them out in the community. And they're not pulling the trigger in these neighborhoods. The people that are pulling triggers in these neighborhoods have been people that have been arrested. They are people that have been on our radar. They are people that have been in the system. They are people that have not paid the dues that people within our system should for doing and committing violent acts. And that is something that we as a community have to stand up to and speak on. It's great. It's absolutely wonderful that we have so many people here today willing to show up because of and as a result of the past 10 days worth of violence. That is something that is commendable for us all. But what we need to do is challenge ourselves to do more, to say more, to be more within the community. What do I mean by that? Well, the Waterloo Police Department puts neighborhood police officers in every neighborhood within the city. And one thing that's underutilized is the fact that neighbors, much like the good Sheriff Thompson referenced earlier, have to become more active within their own communities, become people that are conduits for information for the police department, and also use us as a means to pull your community together. What do I mean by that? Bring the police officers that work in your particular neighborhood in for community meetings, block meetings. Become or allow us to become the central attraction for what's going on in your neighborhood, and use us to become more involved like Miss Oliver, to get back into the habit of telling kids not to do something and interjecting into the lives of the young folks that are out here pulling the triggers before they pull the trigger, and we create the socioeconomic and generational return that we get, that we know we receive when kids are sent to jail for prolonged periods of time. Let me say that again. We know the socioeconomic and generational effects that we have on a community, especially disadvantaged communities, when we're putting kids in jail for long periods of time. And who can we point to in the community that know exactly what's going on and exactly what their neighbors are doing but neighbors? And it's up to the neighbors of our community to stand up and be counted and speak to us We make ourselves available. We want the information. We appeal for the information. We get it sometimes, and other times we don't. But what we're asking is that every neighborhood within this community step up and become a more active part in the lives of the children that are out here pulling the triggers, the children that are out here becoming straw purchasers, and the children that we're sending to jail. The U.S. Attorney made it clear. Just over the last 10 to 12 days, I think he'd agree. We've probably seen a couple centuries worth of sentences from people that have just come from Waterloo, that have been arrested for violent offenses or being violent offenders in the possession of firearms. That's astounding. I normally don't refer to notes, but I will. Just in the last year, 52 people in the city were arrested on over 80 weapons charges. That's just in the first half of 2022. We got 123 sworn positions in this police department. That's almost half of our sworn positions in the police department being arrested for violent offenses with firearms. That's not the result of a public policy. That's not the result of bad police work. I say that's the result of us not caring enough to intercede and intersect in the lives of the kids out here who are making the bad decisions. We've committed ourselves to working with the DA's office. We've committed ourselves to working with the U.S. Attorney's Office, with Iowa State Patrol, with the Sheriff's Department, and other sister and brother law enforcement agencies out here to make this city safer. You'll see more marked police units working in the city. You'll see more of an influx of undercover operators working within our city, taking down offenders. But what we can't do is arrest ourselves out of crime. There's no panacea for violent crime, but there are some starting points for creating solutions. And the biggest starting point is pointing out the people that are doing the things in your community that traps people in their homes, that stops you from sending your kids to the store, and doesn't allow you to enjoy the fruits of your labor when you sit out on your porch or you won't go in your yard because of that neighbor down the street. We're there for you. We're a call away. We're willing to work with you on every last one of your problems as they concern the community and as they concern violent crime, but we cannot do it alone. And we are asking you as a collective group today to care about the city of Waterloo, to pour in as much heart and as much sweat equity as everybody will up standing on this stage to make this a safer city. You can count on it from our end. Can we count on it from you? I'll leave you with this. This job is tough. Police work is a job. It's the only occupation where you can give a life, take a life, or save a life. With the same vitriol and scrutiny that policing gets in doing the job that's ugly that no one else wants to do, when we just ask that you intercede at a community level to prevent violent crimes from occurring or to interrupt the instances of violent crime that you know are emerging within the community, is that too much to ask? I ask you, is that too much to ask? It's not. So with that being said, we're asking for volunteers to step up, community ambassadors, so to speak. One of our plans is to support those ambassadors in the community with as much as we can resource-wise, whether it be police radios, training, to go in and to interdict when folks are seeing things brew to the point where you think there might be gunplay or there might be gang activity. We want you to be a resource for us. We don't want you to put your lives on the line. But what we do want is for you to start stepping up, speaking up, and saying something to these kids that don't have the parental guidance or necessarily the support from the community that they've seen in the past, at least that what Sheriff Thompson referenced earlier is something that we have to get back to, and that is, it takes a village, but where's the village been? Policing can't be the first call. The police department shouldn't be your first call. There are many steps, many rungs on that ladder you should get to before the police become the solution. We don't want to create generational problems. We want to create generational solutions. And that can only happen when the community in and of itself pours in all the heart and equity that it needs to make these things happen and to create a safer Waterloo. We'll open it for some questions. I'll take this as we left no stone unturned. If you'd like to volunteer with the City of Waterloo, please, you can get to us through volunteer at 4WPD. That's volunteer for WPD at waterloopolice.com. And that's for FOR. Volunteer for WPD at waterloopolice.com. We'll support every effort, and our hope is that every neighborhood within this community that we serve, whether it's a business area or it's in the innermost section of our city, will have neighborhood representatives willing to volunteer their efforts and for us to support the same. Sir? Could you repeat that? Volunteer for WPD, that's volunteer for WPD at waterloopolice.com. Thank you. If there are no other questions, we'll end this. Okay, what I'll do to make it easier is anyone who has not spoken that is up on the dais here, please step up and introduce yourselves and describe the function that you serve either within the city or within our community.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your presence and your concern with this issue. My name is Rob Nichols, and I am at-large City Councilman for Waterloo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nia Wilder, and I represent Ward 3, primarily where a lot of the violent crimes are happening. And so if there's anything that you need from me to intercede on your behalf, please let me know. Because I know that it's easy for you to take a gun out of someone's hand, but you have to also take it out of their mind. And you have to remove whatever is making them feel like they have to act violently. So if there's anything that I can do to support you, please let me know, and I'm here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Aaron McClellan. I'm a captain with Waterloo Police Department. I've been here 25 years. I've been dedicated to this city and this department that entire time. It is so great to see everybody show up here today, including yourselves. We've got some work to do, and everybody showing up means that everybody here is invested, and we need to spread this word to everybody that didn't make it today. Some might not see it on TV, but you need to be the ambassadors to get it to them. So thank you all for coming. Look forward to working with everyone.
Good afternoon. I'm Captain Jason Fieger. I'm in charge of the detective division. It's great to see the number of people here in the community that came out. But like a few other people up here have said, we need the community as a whole to come together and help us solve this problem. It just doesn't take us as the police department. It takes you as the community. And that's what we really need, is your support throughout this whole summer and the coming months and these coming years. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Lieutenant Brian Beaton with the Iowa State Patrol. I'm the district commander for the Iowa State Patrol's District 9 office in Cedar Falls. Blackhawk County and Waterloo fall into that. As a state patrol agency, we'll provide the assistance to other agencies that they need. So, thank you.
I'm Scott Irwin. I'm the Supervisory Special Agent for the FBI. I cover all of Eastern Iowa, and our main office is out of Omaha, Nebraska. But we are here to partner. We've been partnering for over 6 years now with Waterloo PD and with the U.S. Attorney's Office as well on a lot of the gun crimes and a lot of the gang activity that is being involved in here. So we're still going to be here and partner with them and give them every resource possible that we can provide to them.
Good afternoon. My name is Jared McClellan. I'm the Acting Chief Deputy for the U.S. Marshals for the Northern District of Iowa, and I appreciate being here. So we're here to support the community, support our partners, and anything else we can do on the federal side. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Don Dockendorf. I'm your supervisory agent for ATF's field offices here throughout Iowa.
Good afternoon. I'm Joe Leibold. I'm the major with the Waterloo Police Department. I'm not going to let the time go by without Captain Duncan, who managed to sneak in the back, standing up and introducing himself. So he's the uniformed officer in the back. I want to thank, although the people up here are very important to our mission, the people out there are more important. And I made phone calls and emails to several of you, and I want to thank you for coming. It was short notice. It was a quick turnaround. We started yesterday and we're here today. I think it shows a lot for our community. So I really appreciate you guys coming out and answering the call when I send the emails and the texts and the phone calls. So thank you for everybody for coming. Thank you.
So again, we'll close, and what we'll do is we'll have, plenty of the folks up here will stick around for a few questions if you have some afterwards. But like Major Leibold said, not since the George Floyd protests have we had such a group of individuals up here echoing the same sentiment. And we thank you all for that. But we also, we want you to leave here empowered to go out and pass that message along to the members of the community that weren't able to be here. And our hope is to be inundated at the Waterloo website that I gave you, volunteer for Waterloo PD. That's volunteer for WPD at waterloopolice.com. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for attending, and we'll close at this time.